After winning the community poll by an overwhelming amount, it was finally time to try Swashbuckler, and it's kinda broken. Today we'll be going through Honour mode solo as a Swashbuckler, going through some multi-classing options for the build and what I think is the most powerful version of the build over in Act 3, which told me something about the Rogue subclass that I never actually knew until making this video. Will we survive or will we crumble under the pressure? If we're going to be playing a rogue, it only makes sense if we pick up Asterion, or for all you normal people out there, Astarion. I end up taking Minor Illusion as my high elf cantrip to begin with, and then we'll swap to Booming Blade later on when it makes a bit more sense. For our stat spread, we're going to be going Dexterity as our main stat of choice, followed by Charisma, and it's not just because I like doing Charisma rolls, it actually helps with our Swashbuckler class, which I'll touch on when it matters. Then High Constitution, and the rest of your stats can be whatever. If you want to have a longer jump distance and a more equip load, you can go into Strength, or Wisdom is very common for saving throws. Of course, we start on the Nautiloid. Now, on the Nautiloid, there's not too much for us to do here, so we just try to kill as many of the enemies as possible and make our escape once we can't kill any more. Should I have killed this Mind Flay that was on 7 HP? I mean, yeah, probably. Alright, let's get into the real start of the run. Act 1. To begin with, we're obviously going to skip past the Intellect Devourers because we are too weak for those guys. What we're not too weak for though is the Scared Boar, a whopping 3 XP. We then cause a workplace accident, getting us enough XP to get to level 2. Level 2 doesn't grant us a huge amount of power, but what it does grant us is a lot of cheese. Hunting actions allow us to attack an enemy and then hide. This can allow us to confuse the AI of many enemies in the game. For example, if we go to the Grove fight here, what we can do is we can sneak attack this enemy and then hide. Now because we are hidden, instead of running towards me like the AI should, it's going to stand there and run towards Zevlor, which they can't reach anyway, making us completely safe since these are all bonus action use cases. However, a bit later on, we'll have less use for these once we get our subclass abilities. Before heading into the Grove though, as always, we come and grab the Silver Pendant to cast Guidance. This can be useful throughout the entirety of the game, so it's always good to pick up as soon as possible. At the Grove, we pick up our usual shopping list items, including an Invisibility Potion and Strength Elixirs. Strength Elixirs will just boost our damage in the early game and give us more equip load. We'll of course come save Arabella, and we'll come back for Korga a bit later on because she has an item that I do want. And after extracting a tadpole out of this guy's eye, we get enough XP to reach level 3. And at level 3, we're going to get our subclass, which of course is going to be the Swashbuckler Rogue. This is going to give us 2 subclass features. Fancy footwork, which means once we do a melee attack, we can walk away from that enemy without an opportunity attack, which is great. And we're going to get Rakish Audacity. This will increase our initiative rolls and make it so we don't need advantage to trigger a sneak attack, making it a lot easier for us to use. With our new confidence and subclass, we make our way over and pick up Scratch, steal a bunch of free money, and eventually make our way to the Zamanite hideout. Here we're going to get a quest to go pick up a shipment, but the people who have it are surrounded by gnolls. Thankfully, we have an easy workaround. Being invisible, we're able to skip past the gnolls and steal the chest and then teleport away. For whatever reason, the quest didn't update, so I had to go back and go see the 2 people guarding the chest dead before it would let me go and hand it in. Giving her this will allow us to get a few extra items that we wouldn't be able to get previously, including the Titan String Bow. Now you can just blow everyone up here and get it that way, but then you're missing out on a little bit of XP for not doing the quest line of getting the chest. And I wouldn't blow up a bunch of innocent...
Are you sure about that?
I mean, I'd blow them up for some extra XP, let's be honest. With the Titan String Bow, we are now broken. I mean, the Titan String Bow is just broken in general. But we can now pick off a lot of enemies easily and get some free XP just sitting around, including enemies like the gnolls, getting us a bunch of speed potions in the process. Getting into the Blighted Village, we get enough XP to hit level 4, and at level 4 our true power spike really begins. We are granted 3 unique actions to Swashbuckler Rogue. Flick of the wrist is the one we'll be using the most and is the best one, allowing us to disarm an enemy if they fail a throw. It also kind of acts like a pseudo extra attack, using our bonus action. We get a version of Vicious Mockery, which I pretty much don't use the entire run, and then we get Sand Toss.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
I think that should explain it. Flick of the Wrist and Vicious Mockery both use your Charisma to determine its spell save DC. However, Sand Toss uses your Dexterity instead. For feats here at level 4, Savage Attacker is really good for this build, however I would recommend picking this up later on, as it doesn't give too much benefit right now. Ability improvement in Dexterity is always good for extra AC, initiative and damage and chance to hit. We'll be pushing this to 20 dex later on once we get Ethel's Hair. If you don't care about using Charisma rolls, then I would choose Actor here to begin with and respec later. This will just give us some higher chances to succeed in some throws to get some free XP. That's what I'm going to do here in this run, just to make my life a little bit easier. Inside the Blighted Village, we're going to pick up the Haste Helm, just giving us some extra movement speed, which is vital on a melee character, and we have no better options in the early game anyway. I'm sure this won't be any help later on. Finally, we make our way over to the Goblin Camp. With the active feat, we're able to easily get through the front doors. We'll spare Shadowheart's life and expertly suck some toes. This is going to give us plus 3 meters of movement speed, or 10 feet of freedom units. Inside the Goblin Camp, we get Branded. This just allows us to have a few different easier dialogue options instead of dice rolls. Then we strip off and get hit in the back by a guy with a mace. Due to us being an elf, we can't be put to sleep, so we have to throw Prestige Scut off the map to get her key. This is going to allow us access into the Underdark, where I almost end my run by opening the gate, instead of waiting for the Minotaur to come. Thankfully, I got back to the gate in time and it was turned into turn-based mode, so the Minotaur froze in place. That could have been a little dodgy. Thankfully though, because of our broken Titan String Bow and Strength Elixir, we easily one-shot him anyway. Now time to get a unexpected weapon for this build, the Far Alu. This weapon is a longsword, but it is also a finesse weapon. There's only 2 of these in the game, so this is a very unique kind of weapon. Although not an essential weapon that you would have to use in this build, I think it's fun and it is a solid weapon overall, so I'll be using it to begin with. I had a few comments on my last video that was wondering how I got to the Myconid colony, and without getting into the fight with the bullet, and this is how. Over on this ledge, you're able to shoot the torch stalks from above here. This will destroy all the mushrooms as well as all the other explosive bulbs around, besides one in the very corner which you don't need to worry about. Then you can just use Featherfall in any kind of way, whether it's a scroll, potion or just a spell, and jump straight down. This will skip the whole bullet encounter on this little rampart here, giving you safe access straight to the Myconid colony. If there's ever something like this that I do in a run and you don't know exactly how I get there, feel free to leave a comment and I'll try to explain it at some point in one of my next videos. We make our way over to the beach. Now we cast Guidance before going into the conversation here, as we want the highest chance possible to pass a perception check. Passing the perception check will mean we can use the brand dialogue option, making it so we don't have to do any rolls to be completely safe in this encounter. And since we have the boots from the Myconid colony from the gnome, we can head to the Grimforge whenever we like, but first I would like to get to level 5 just to increase my exploration XP from that area. Due to our high charisma and actor feat, I'm going to go get a few dialogue options that will grant us a lot of XP, starting with the fish people. I forgot their name for some reason. We come to Baal and his followers. With the one easy dice roll, it's a 20, but because of our high charisma, we succeed with not too much pressure. This is going to grant us 750 XP, a lot of XP for free. It's important to note here, if you don't want to do the dice roll at all, you can bring a companion here and sacrifice them. However, that ruins the solo run, so I won't be doing that in this video. Next is the Githyanki, and if you had Disguised Person here, this is a lot easier, only having to pass 1 dice roll. But as my pure Astarian self, I've got a lot more dice rolls I need to pass, and not all of them are charisma. The first one we start with is any of the persuasion options here. We pick the persuasion one, get a 27 light work. Next we have to do an Arcana check, which we're not as great at, but we still manage to succeed. Then we've got to do a wisdom saving throw against detect thoughts. Thankfully, we are high rolling today and we passed that one too.
Nothing even approaching a useful thought in that skull. I ought to just kill you.
The only thoughts that I had in my head is that you should subscribe. We do one more dice roll and then succeed that one as well, finally finishing the chain of events here. If you have the digital deluxe version of the game, you can use the helmet that gives you disguise self to make this a lot easier. I do have that. I just decided not to use it. In total, this encounter gives us about 500 XP. The next dialogue check is going to be the ogres. This is very easy as a rogue as you only need to roll a 5 to pass. Doing this not only gives us about 225 XP, but also gives us a horn that we can call them into battle with. I immediately use this on the wood roads to get the letter for Korga so we can go fight her in the grove. But first, this gives us enough XP to get to level 5. And at level 5, we could take the rogue feature here, but I think it's just better to start multi-classing from here. There's a couple different options. You could go a paladin or a fighter, in my opinion, are the two best choices. Fighter is clearly better as a level 1 dip, but if you want to get smites at level 6, then you could go into paladin. The problem I have with paladin is you've got to abide by the oath, and I'm not that kind of guy. And every time you want to respec, you have to pay money in order to get your oath back before you can respec, which is not a bit of me. In saying that, for some reason, I did end up going into paladin here. I do respec shortly though. I end up going Oath of the Crown as I've never used that subclass before, and people say that it is one of the better ones for a level 1-2 dip. So I picked that up, and we head on to the Grimforge. At the Grimforge, we've got a few items here to pick up, and I'm sure you're familiar with which ones I am talking about. To begin with, for our arms, I'm going to come grab the Wondrous Gloves. These are going to give us just +1 AC, which as a melee character, I'm going to take all the early AC I can get, but we will be swapping off these gloves once we get a better option in Act 2. We team up with the Dwaegars to make the near fight just that tiny bit easier. We throw the eyeball off the map just to easily get rid of it, and we make our way over to the other side of the Grimforge where we're going to start making the adamantite armor. Also, thank you for everyone that confirmed that this is the Shah Gauntlet. I actually can't believe I've never seen that before or noticed it in my 1,000 hours of playing this game. Now into the main event of the Grimforge, Grim. We use the tried and true method of sitting above him using minor illusion and slamming the hammer. We hide away and let Grim deal with all the methods, and then we come in and just use the hammer to finish him off. With this done, we can craft 2 pieces of adamantite gear. I'm going to craft the shield and the scale mail medium armor. This will increase our defense by a significant margin, giving us anti-crit and also reeling effects. We'll be replacing the medium armor in Act 2 and getting rid of the shield in Act 3. It was here that I respec'd and grabbed fighter instead of paladin. This gives us a fighting style, which we'll choose duelling. This will give us +2 damage as long as we use a weapon with one hand, and none in the other. The last main piece of gear we need from Act 1 is here in the Grove, from Korga. We need to get rid of Korga and get her amulet. However, this fight can get a little bit messy. It starts off really well with us using Flick of the Wrist to disarm Korga. A good thing to do when you disarm an enemy is to pick up their weapon so they can't re-equip it, as they can do this. Unfortunately, because they are druids though, they can easily just wild shape or use a spell rather than melee attacking. This puts us in a bit of a tricky situation, and as you can see here, it's not going too well for me. One thing we do have going for us is a high defense, so our chance to immediately lose is low. However, I don't really enjoy this position I'm put in. So I do the safest option, go invisible and reset the fight. However, I don't intend to let the fight fully reset. After leaving combat, I turn it back into turn-based mode shortly after and use a scroll of lightning bolt to try kill as many of the enemies as possible. Now it's just a 2-on-1, and the enemy is surprised, so I can easily take care of the first one while making my way over to the next. While I'm here though, I do loot the Broodmother's Revenge, giving us 1d6 of poison damage whenever we heal onto our weapon. After finishing the last enemy inside here, we're now able to go and steal the Idol of Sylvanas. using a darkness arrow to blind the area and then stealing it without anyone seeing. Because Gorg is dead, the grove will no longer become hostile, so we can give the idol to Mole and get the Ring of Protection, again giving us just +1 AC and +1 to our saving throws. Next on the list is taking care of the goblin camp and the leaders. I decided to use the poison bath method for some of the enemies outside. You don't have to do this, and it's actually better if you don't in terms of XP, but because we get an inspiration for it, I just decided I wanted to do it. What you can do is leave one of the enemies alive, kill everyone else, and then do the bath. That is the best for XP, but I'm lazy, so this is the method we're doing. After putting the poison inside the tub, we just sit here and watch the goblins drink their drinks and die. Not all of them die, but enough of them to make my life a little bit easier. We lure Minthara on the bridge with Minor Illusion and then shoot the bridge to make it collapse. This will mean that we don't get her boots, but this might change in a different timeline. Ragzlin was actually very easy to take out. We just used Flick of the Wrist to disarm him, and then from there we just took our time slowly chipping away at his health bar.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
Ragzlin dead, we're now able to go to Act 2 whenever we please. However, I've just got a few more things to tie up here in Act 1. I ended up taking on Nia, which was of course pretty easy. I actually ended up using Nia's weapon for a good portion of this run, because it's a finesse weapon and it also does a 1d4 of psychic damage by default, making it just a nice option when you have Savage Attacker. I did end up killing the gnomes though, because I need to get to level 6. It's a requirement, come on. Fighter level 2 grants us Action Surge. Although, if you wanted to respec to go to Paladin here and wanted to abide by the Paladin rules or don't care about playing an Oathbreaker, you could also go into the Paladin route and then get smites with 2 levels of that instead of the fighter levels. Both are very valid, but I think just going fighter is just more consistent and easier to manage. With level 6 obtained, I make my way over to the Mountain Pass. At the Mountain Pass we meet Lady Esther, which has one item that we are looking for, the Periapt of Wound Closure. This is going to give us full amount of healing whenever we get a heal from any source, whether that's potions or a spell. Of course, we make our way to the Githyanki Crash, killing any kobolds on the way and rizzing our way through the front door past the Githyanki. Again, I could use the helmet in order to get here a bit quicker, but with my high charisma I can't fail. I said I can't fail. I mean, barely. A key weapon here is the Knife of the Undermountain King. I will come back to this because we can get it for free once we kill her. While I'm here though, I will kill the Githyanki Doctor and then make my way over to Act 2. Act 2 is where a bunch of stronger items become available to us, including things like utility, more damage, and also more defensive items. For some reason I was seeing red when I came in this part here. I decided I wanted to kill this whole band of people to make the Drider fight more easy. But it doesn't really work that way, I've come to realize. These guys here weren't too hard to take out of all. I disarmed all the stronger enemies, and the other goblins and stuff went down in 1 or 2 attacks. However, if I tried to summon the Drider, nothing would happen, and if I went to any location where he would spawn normally, he wasn't there. I guess I was going to have to get the lantern at Moonrise Towers instead. Before that though, we make our way over to the Last Light Inn where we meet Jaheira, who thankfully lets us in because Mole says we saved the grove.
What's he doing? He's the one who saved us!
We have plenty of items here that are going to boost our build significantly. Starting off with the Flawed Helldust Gloves. This is going to get us a 1d4 onto our melee attack rolls. And a surprise to no one, we're going to be heading over to Talia to pick up 2 items. The first one being the Cloak of Protection, again giving us +1 AC. The next is going to be a replacement chestplate, being the Yongti Scale Mail. I don't know if I pronounced that right. but this gives our full dexterity modifier and doesn't give us disadvantage on stealth checks. With all that gear picked up, we're now able to make our way over to the Moonrise Towers, but we've got to do it the old-fashioned way, by spamming some dashes and jumping in with a triple jump elixir potion. This is going to give us enough movement speed and jump actions to get all the way to the very end without taking damage from the Shadow Curse lands. We could survive a couple turns, but just to be safe, I just knock it out in one, and then we don't have to worry about it. We're here for a few more items and of course the other Moon Lantern to traverse the rest of the Shadow Curse lands. The Ring of Free Action is a must grab for pretty much any solo playthrough, just to make sure you can avoid any paralyzing effects that might come your way. Then, because we're playing Astarion, I decided to get the Everlasting Vigor Potion. To do this, you just have to bite the trader that sells you the Ring of Free Action, and then you'll be rewarded this permanent +2 in your strength. It's not going to do a whole lot for our build in particular, but it's just going to give us some extra carry rate and jump distance, which is just a nice to have, and it's easy to do. We come and grab the Moon Lantern to traverse the rest of the Shadow Curse lands. We then also make sure to read Catholic's letter so we can pass his first phase in the Merkle fight. And the last essential item we'll be picking up here is the Dragthroat Glaive. This is going to allow us to infuse our weapon with a 1d4 of a few different elements, but we're going to pick Thunder because it's the damage type that is less resistant. With most of the items picked up now, I start making work on a few of the enemies, starting with the prison enemies. Here the Warden I can easily get a surprise round off of and trying to disarm her with our Flick of the Wrist. Even if it doesn't go through, we are pretty much getting an extra free attack just using our bonus action, and all of our damage sources like from our gloves and our amulet apply to that attack as well as our main attack. Pair that with our high initiative, so we're pretty much always going first, we can get about 4 attacks off before the enemy can even react as long as we get the surprise round. This build thrives in one-on-one scenarios, so we try to limit our situations to be that if possible. Our build does work in group scenarios, it's just a little less potent because we can only focus on one enemy at a time unless we're using arrows of many targets. With this bomber from above, we are able to get enough XP to get to level 7. At level 7, we're going to get our Fighter subclass. There's a couple different options you can pick here. Battlemaster and Champion are the two I would recommend. Battlemaster gives you more flexibility and Champion is just easier to use because it's just a lower critical threshold, which we will focus on later on. Battlemaster is just the stronger option right now because we don't have a bunch of those critical reducing effects. Having abilities like Trip Attack, Menacing Attack and Disarming Strike just make our build flow a little bit stronger, even though it is a bit more complex now. With the level up obtained, we head into the Shah Gauntlet. We're not going to do too much here at the moment, but we're just going to clear out all the enemies guarding the way and unlock all the waypoints, just to come back later once we're set up just a tiny bit better. Instead, we're going to head back to Act 1 and come grab one of our bigger power spikes of the run, Ethel's Hair, to get to 20 dex. This is going to help us in many regards, including AC, initiative, and also damage. With all the mask enemies before Ethel, we take out all of them except one. This is because Ethel will waste her turn summoning them all in on her first round of combat. With Ethel below 30 HP, we now just have to wait till the next round of combat in order to get the dialogue option to get to Ethel's Hair. With 44 HP and high AC, we should have no problem surviving the oncoming onslaught. We take out one clone with Psionic Backlash, and now we just have to sit here and hope for the best. Oh, for fuck.
They say the devil's water, it ain't so sweet. You don't have to drink right now.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Every once in a little while.
With us finally caught back up. Hold on, I'm being told they've got to finish the montage. Okay, let's recap a bit, shall we? So with this montage done, we've pretty much finished Act 2 and we got most of our levels sorted here. For level 8, I ended up going for Fighter level 4 to get another feat, and I chose Savage Attacker. We have a lot of dice rolls on our attacks due to our armor and other kind of abilities that we just want to try and maximize that damage whenever we hit, which Savage Attacker does very easily, taking the higher damage rolls rather than the lower. For level 9, this one I just went level 5 for an extra attack in Fighter. However, I do respec shortly to go into 5 Paladin instead because I figured the extra smites will help more against Merkel. Spoiler, I should have just stayed as a Fighter because it doesn't really work out the way I envision in my head. Some other important things that I did is I came and grabbed the Scroll of Knock from below the Masons Guild. This will just allow me to skip the Shah Gauntlet, not having to do all the trials. And then I tried to speedrun all 3 of the Thorms using dialogue checks. I have 10 turns of Voice of the Circle, so I tried to get all of them done without that buff running out. I speed up the footage here and I'll cut around, but as you can see from all my bonuses, it's pretty hard for me to fail these checks, hitting consistently in the 40 range. I would say 2 minutes 48 is not a bad time if I say so myself. What does this grant me? Not much, just a bunch of XP. So we'll take it. Inside of the Shah Gauntlet, we also took care of one Dark Justiciar that you have to kill to free Yugo. This does conflict with Astarian's questline, and I'll be honest, I completely forget to do his questline, even though that's the whole reason I picked him in the first place, so I can get the extra 1d10 necrotic damage in Act 3. But oh well. We live and we learn. We also do take care of the Shadow Curse lands just in general by helping Helson on his questline. This is going to be a bit of a difficult fight considering I'm a melee build, but it's nothing a bit of Barrelmancy can't help with. With Barrelmancy taking out a good chunk of the enemy, I can take the single individual ones out on my own and finish the fight pretty easily from there, with the portal only taking a hit or 2. With that half taken care of, we now have to deal with the second half of this encounter, which is significantly easier than this first one anyway. Here we just have to deal with a bunch of the shadow enemies. Most of these enemies have low HP, so we can deal with those with AoE spells or arrows of many targets, and we just have to take care of the 2 main ghosts, just to ensure that they don't do too much damage. Thankfully with our build at the moment, we do a lot of damage, however our Flick of the Wrist will not work because they are not holding any weapon. So we're just going to have to rely on our base damage and spell scrolls. This ends up being pretty effective, only taking around 5 turns to finish this encounter. Finishing off the fight with a few bow shots. With that, the quest to save the Shadow Curse land is now complete, and pretty much the last thing we have left to do in Act 2 besides Ketheric. We don't quite get enough XP to get to level 10, unfortunately. This is a little bit of a bummer because I go in here thinking I will get enough XP in the Mindflayer colony to get to level 10, and therefore getting all the things I want in my build. However, I get just shy off. What I'm looking for is 5 Paladin, 4 Rogue and 1 Fighter, so I can have my 2 fighting styles, extra attack from Paladin and higher level smites, with still having our level 4 and Rogue for all of our Swashbuckler abilities. I choose Oath of the Crown again, big mistake by the way, and get both the dueling and defense fighting styles from Paladin and Fighter. We now make our way over to fight Ketheric, but first we've got to free the Night Song. Now if I read my oath, I would know that I'm meant to be doing things that the Crown wants. and I don't think they want the Night Song freed. But I've done it, so we free the Night Song and then the Oathbreaker pays me a visit shortly after. We're just going to play the rest of this section as an Oathbreaker Paladin because I tend to respec once I hit Act 3 anyway. Now it's time to encounter Ketheric on the rooftop. We have a decent AC and I decide to cast Shield of Faith in order to have 28 in total. I don't really have any other concentration spells that I care about, so that was the best option, and it lasts until I lose concentration anyway. We then of course do the persuasion check on the rooftop here to get access to the skip in the Merkel fight, which we clearly pass. Now it's time to actually fight him. I go for the disarm and surprisingly get a first try. From this point, Ketheric's pretty much useless. He's only going to try summon minions and just do some reactions. With a few more booming blades and sneak attacks, and help with the Night Song, we're able to easily take care of Ketheric in just a few turns. Now time for the Mind Flayer colony. I absolutely annihilate every enemy in here. With all of our pieces of crit reduction, we're able to get critical hits pretty often. Now onto Merkel. Now this fight, I had a game plan for, and my gameplay did not work as I intended. But I tried, and you'll see that. We do our normal summon Scratch to free the Night Song and use an invisibility potion to turn us all invisible. I even summoned a skeleton just because I could. We then Booming Blade the Mind Flayer to guarantee the surprise round and almost kill him in one shot. We then go for the persuasion roll to skip the Ketheric part of this fight, not because it'd be hard, and actually probably make it a bit easier to be honest, giving me time to clear out all of the Necromites, but we skip it and head straight into Merkel. We finish off the Mind Flayer with another Booming Blade just to secure that we won't be getting stunned. I then head down the Ketheric and try many attempts of Flick of the Wrist to try kill him. My first mistake here was using my smites right now. I shouldn't use my smites yet because I can save them to burst him once he's lower and not run the risk of him healing his health back. Hint hint. Even though he still has his scythe, I figured that I have 28 AC, what's the chance of me getting hit? Apparently still pretty high. I almost just got wiped out there and then. After looking at the damage logs, it looks like he has a 25% chance to hit me, having to roll a 15 or higher to do so. So surely I can't get that unlucky that I get hit multiple times in this fight, right? Being stuck up here, I use a Scroll of Misty Step to get away so I can actually heal my character, as I'm in the range of the Bone Chill zone from Merkel. Teleporting away here allows me to heal up most of my HP that is missing. I attempt to try disarm him again on my next turn, however because he's got legendary resistance, the chance of me doing so is very low. Thankfully though, you can only use legendary resistance 3 times, so eventually I should be able to brute force it. Yeah, just a little off the top please sir. Unfortunately, Merkel starts getting heals here now, and I don't really have a way to stop it because I have so many enemies alive and I don't have that great of AoE at the moment. I decided to use a darkness arrow so he can't just start hitting me for 1,000,000 damage a turn, and he has to use Call of the Damned. This will also hurt his minions, but I will drag them closer to him, but that's okay. I use a Scroll of Chain Lightning to try clear out as many of the enemies as I can, reducing it to only about 5 left. After giving up on Shield of Faith, I decided to cast Protection from Evil and Good so I can no longer get frightened from Merkel. And finally, I Flick of the Wrist him and the scythe comes off. What does this mean? Well, it means he'll use his claws instead, which still hurt, but not as scary as the scythe. Unfortunately, I couldn't just get it to work. I just wasn't doing enough damage compared to the amount of damage I was taking, and the battle of attrition would have slowly lost. I'm sure there's a way to do a setup properly where you can get a lot of attacks in and then not take the opportunity attacks due from the rogue passive, but I just couldn't work it out. So what did I do instead, you might ask? Well, I sat up top here and I just sniped him for some minimal amount of damage every turn and healed. Why? Because I can always use my bonus action to heal on my turns. I'm no longer having to run back and forth out of a bone chill zone. And also, the Necromites at this point will always spawn up here, meaning I can easily take care of them once they spawn, and I'll get a Bloodlust Elixir attack for doing so anyway. This flowed really nicely and I was pretty much in zero risk. I can't get shoved off because I've got Minthara's boots on for when I concentrate on a spell, but if you take the boots off while you're concentrating, you keep the buff permanently until your next long rest. And finally, after 57 turns of combat, I can finally finish off Ketheric. I definitely misplayed this fight so many different times, but proof is in the pudding. You don't need everything to go perfect for you to succeed. As long as you know how to react, it doesn't matter if you do something suboptimally. However, I forget to pick up Ketheric's armor piece, I just leave it on the corpse. Oops. We get level 10 for doing this finally, and that means I can get extra attack. With that all done, we can finally leave Act 2, admiring our hard work on the way out. But don't think I didn't forget about our best friends, the Githyanki monks. With our spell slots refreshed, we're able to easily take care of these guys with a few smites, ending the encounter relatively quick. And with that, we're finally able to head into Act 3, where we can realize the true power of this build. Act 3, where true power could really be realized with this build. But first we've got to collect a few items and buffs. First thing I pick up here is the Stony and Bony statue. This is going to give us permanent bless for the rest of the game after our next long rest. Although it's expensive at 5,000 gold, it's well worth it, considering how much consistency it will give our build. We head over to Worm's Rock, where we're going to go get the Helm of Balduran first. Thankfully, the guard blocking the way let us in freely. Technically that's free, right? And then after skipping this puzzle by failing 3 times, and then turning invisible straight away, we're able to skip all the trials in this area, getting us direct access to the Helm of Balduran itself. This is going to be our direct replacement for anti-crit in Act 3 with our new build. Although there's other higher damage options, this is just the safest option. Okay, I think it's time we got our new weapon. And you probably can guess exactly what it's going to be. We're going to go grab the Duelist Prerogative, and it's actually one of the easiest legendaries to obtain in Act 3. To do this, we're going to head to the Flaming Fist headquarters. We're going to meet Laura, who is complaining about her missing child. Since the Flaming Fist won't help her, we will, and we will get the Duelist Prerogative as our reward. The hag is actually who has her captured, and she kind of did me dirty in Act 1. So we're going to get our revenge. We're heading over to this building that's broken down. Inside of a safe, we can actually find the concoction to make Hag's Bane. This will mean we don't have to actually fight Ethel, we can just get her to throw the child back up. That's a sentence I'd never want to say out loud again. We come pick up the ingredients from this safe, and then teleport away. We extract the ingredients and then make the Hag's Bane grenade. Over at the Blushing Mermaid, we find the hag still affected by ability drain over here. If we stand in this corner and throw the grenade, we'll trigger the cutscene where she throws Verena back up, and we won't trigger the combat with the rest of the red caps that are actually hiding in the room before. With that all done, we can now talk to Verena and tell her to go back to her mother's house. Returning there ourselves, we'll be rewarded the Duelist Prerogative. This is going to be our main weapon for the rest of the run. It benefits when we don't have anything in our offhand, giving us an extra reaction and -1 to critical hits. Although there's other items that you can use for your main weapon, I think this is the most simplistic and thematic weapon that we can get for this build, and it looks cool. So this is the one we're going to be using. Okay, but let's go get the main piece that really puts this all together. But first we need to get access to the Murder Tribunal. Dollar beats us to this enemy here, so we take on him and his friends, who are pretty much a joke, to be honest. We show Dollar who's boss by hitting a Booming Blade critical hit with a Divine Smite on top of it. And then, of course, with our extra attack, we disarm, fail it, doesn't really matter. We'll just go for another hit, and then there he goes. Dollar's down, and we can take his Sack of Hands and the Dollar Amanus, which is another weapon that we could have considered. After taking out the last of his allies, we have saved Figaro's life, because that is just the kind-hearted person we are. With that done, we are now able to have access to the murder tribunal, and we must pass the test and ally with them. This is because this will unlock a trader that will have our main set of items. So we kill the flying elephant and then go have a bath in some blood. This unlocks this trader here at the murder tribunal that has the ballast armor. Shock, who could have saw this coming. The ballast armor will give any enemy around you vulnerable to piercing damage, unless they are immune to it. It also gives us some bonuses to initiative, but we have so much of that already that it doesn't really matter too much. Unfortunately, right now we're broke, so we're going to have to quickly go and make some money. We re-meet with Dareth because she has 100 attitude with us and sell a bunch of stuff. I then go to Withers where I respec my build into my ideal version of this character. So what's the tea? We're going to be going monoclass rogue. And you might be asking why. Now, I didn't actually know this, but the higher level you go, you actually have scaling on your sneak attack to do more damage. At base rate, it is 2d6, and then all the way at level 11, it is 6d6 of your weapon damage. The level up screen actually doesn't tell you this information, but the correct damage does show up on the tooltip. So we just go strictly rogue, and there is only one kind of unexpected change that you might not see coming here. And it's going to do with our feet. No, not those feet. Our actual feats. We still take savage attacker and ability improvement, but for our third feat that we are going to get for being level 10 rogue, we are going to pick moderately armored, which is going to give us medium armor proficiency, allowing us to wield the Helm of Balduran. This also allows us to switch to a different build if we wanted to, where we could use the armor of agility for a higher AC, but less damage. We still need a little bit of XP to get to a level 11 for the max damage, but now we have the ballast armor. This increases our damage by a significant portion. While we're here though, we also grab the Crater Flesh Gloves and the Vicious Shortbow. These are going to do damage when we score a critical hit. The way these kind of things interact is a bit funky, so I'm not going to go into the deep breakdown here, but just know it adds a lot of damage. Because I'm broke, I end up stealing the Dead Shot away from this trader, which is going to reduce our critical hits by 1 as well if we don't want to use the extra damage from the Shortbow. Then we come over to this other trader and steal the Armor of Agility in case we want to use that version of the build for more safety. And for killing some random enemies, we finally hit level 11 when we hit our last power spike for sneak attack, which the game does not tell you, and who plays more than 4 levels of rogue anyway. We come and grab the Rapture buff for our last kind of big spike in Act 3. Another piece of armor you could consider here is the Slayer's Cloak, which reduces your crit if you're hidden. Due to the extra workaround of getting this lower crit status, I don't necessarily recommend this, especially because we are a melee class, but if you want to use it, you totally could. And finally, Turizul is always a good pickup for an extra action, but no bonus action or action use. Now, let's go do some nonsense. Here for Orin, I decided to go for a new strategy that I've never done before. I threw a speed potion over there just in case this strategy didn't work out, but it does. Get ready, it's kinda cheesy. So I just make sure I buff my weapons up as much as possible and then cast Greater Invis. Because our dexterity is so high, the chance of us failing this is kinda low as long as we can kill her in just a few turns. Combat's not gonna trigger until I get revealed. So I start going for some sneak attacks, and now that she's targeted as an enemy, she has vulnerability to piercing damage. And with just a few attacks, we're able to easily take out Orin without being revealed. Different strat, same cheese. After taking out the rest of the ballast, we're able to collect our next netherstone of the run, meaning we could go end the run whenever we want, but I have a few more people I want to tick off my list of things to kill. Who better to test this newfound power against than Raphael? We find our contract and rip it up, using the same greater invisibility method that we used on Orin to kill both the spectators in this room. Or alternatively, we could just one-shot them. That works too. With hope free, we make our way and fight Raphael, but we've got to do a little bit of setup in order to make sure this plan works flawlessly. I'm sure you're all familiar with this helmet, but let me introduce you to my friend, the Helm of Arcane Acuity. Whenever we do damage, we gain stacks of Arcane Acuity, and it doesn't have to be damage on an enemy, it can just be on an object. And this will get us higher spell save DC and spell attack rolls. We care about the spell save DC, because then we can hold person and have a highly likelihood to succeed. After we got our 10 stacks, we go into turn-based mode, equip all of the rings and stuff that we need for this build, and then start the fight with Raphael. With my speed potion already on the ground, I go for my hold monster against Raphael. With a 64% chance, I succeed, meaning we are ready to go. I step in the potion in order to get haste, and then fly over to Raphael to make sure he has vulnerability to my piercing damage, and then we go to town. I try to do as much damage as I can in this one turn because he'll guarantee break free at the end of his turn. We're able to do a very good portion of his health, not one-shotting him, but with my speed potion and Tourism extra actions, we're able to get him pretty low that we shouldn't have too much issue finishing him off on our next turn. Getting him down to 237 health is not bad in one turn, so I fly away to somewhere safe to make sure I can't get damaged. Since we helped save Yuga in the Shah Gauntlet, he's automatically on our side and he'll also do a little bit of damage before getting freed. Or not. Now we pretty much have to kill Raphael, otherwise it's not going to be good news for us because our next 2 turns are going to be wasted. So we want to make sure we can do as much damage as possible, otherwise we're going to have to kind of reset the fight. I get a natural crit and I do so much damage with that high roll there, meaning on my next bonus action attack I easily kill him. That was Raphael dealt with, and now I've just got to deal with his minions. I took 0 damage in that encounter, so now I've just got to hide and come back once I'm not going to be lethargic for a few turns and kill the rest of the enemies with ease. With the last enemy taken care of, we have officially defeated Raphael. Pretty easy fight. Obviously, Helm of Arcane Acuity, very broken, very overused in terms of Raphael builds, but hey, at least I did it melee. That was pretty cool, right? That also gave us enough XP to get to level 12, which gives us our last feat. Again, with our 4th feat, there is so many different options you could pick, and there's not really a correct option here. You could go for something like Sentinel or Sharpshooter if you want to do some better ranged attacks. Maybe you want to do something with more medium armor or heavy armor. I don't know, mobile for more movement speed. I end up picking tough just for some more HP because we are melee, and I just want to ensure that we can't get one shot. But of course there is so many different options here that I don't think there's necessarily a bad choice. Next I come to Sorcery Sundries, where we're going to get our insurance policy to make sure we can beat the game easily. This is going to be Scroll of Artistry of War. This is going to be like an enhanced magic missile, and with a special ability from an Illithid, we are able to do stupid damage with it, instantly one-shotting the red dragon on the brain. I also killed Lorican while I was here. He wasn't hard, he died in 2 hits. I then decided it was time to do a questline I've never done on this channel. We're going to be teaming up with the gnomes to destroy the Steelwatcher factory with a bomb. We meet up with Walburn, who's going to give us a bomb strong enough to blow up the entire Steelwatch factory. He gives us the bomb, and then we make our way over to the factory, where we sneak our way in by flying in invisible, skipping the first encounter entirely. Once we've made it into the main room, we have a fight on our hands, and that is of course going to be the Steelwatchers and the Big Titan. Thankfully, this fight isn't too hard, as we can pretty much take care of each of the enemies in one turn. I know there's a cheese for this fight, and I couldn't remember how to do it, even though I've done it before. So we just took care of all the enemies one by one and dealt with the Titan last. Once we have the Steelwatchers low enough, they enter a self-destruct state where I can just fly away and be in 0 harm and they blow themselves up. This fight actually showed off the double reactions really well here. This Steelwatcher tries to jump away and we get an opportunity attack. And then we are able to sneak attack, and then they try to move again and I opportunity attack again. With all that damage done, they instantly go on the self-destruct mode, and it wasn't even my turn, costing 0 actions or bonus actions. After getting the last Steelwatcher into its self-destruct state, we only have the Titan to worry about. Thankfully, the Titan on its own isn't too bad, as we can easily kite it and just go in for the attacks when available. Getting him low enough will mean he'll also enter a self-destruct state and we just fly away as far as we can and the encounter will end. Although the XP doesn't matter anymore, what this does is make the fight with Gortash significantly easier, as I don't intend to side with him this time around. So we put the bomb onto the neural brain thing and then make our escape, blowing up the entire Steelwatcher factory. Walbren is impressed with our efforts, although our other friend here, Barkus, is not. And they have a little bit of a bicker. I then decided to take matters into my own hands. After dealing with 1 million guards, I kind of forgot that that would be the case, but I dealt with them. We are finally ready to take on Gortash, who's actually going to be pretty easy. To start this, we are actually going to make sure we throw something at these force curtain things, and I choose something that does bludgeoning damage to make sure it instantly dies. This will ensure that he won't get immunity from piercing damage, which would absolutely kill our build. With the fight started, we obviously go first, and now we have to try work out what the game plan is to easily kill him. I go for a few booming blades, and I skipped the sneak attack on my first attack here because I didn't get a crit. I have another opportunity to try get a critical here, so it's better off for me skipping this first reaction and hoping that I can get it on my second, which I don't, unfortunately. I still do a lot of damage though, getting him to about 200 HP. He does enter his Bane state. This isn't the end of the world, we can deal with this pretty easily. We fly back in on our next turn after he spent his whole turn trying to run towards us. We go for a flick of the wrist. Oh no, just kind of felt like it. And we do get the critical, doing a bunch of damage. This instantly gets rid of his full overshield. Then we go in for some more booming blades to try to do some more damage. We still have 2 actions here, so we have a lot of potential damage left on the table. Because I got 2 turns of my speed potion here, I pop a Terrazil, as that will time out perfectly together, meaning I only have 1 stage of lethargic. I go for another booming blade, even though he's immune to thunder damage. I don't know why I keep doing that. And then again, I fly away as far as possible. And our last turn of our speed and Terrazil, I fly back in, going in for the final blow here. With a critical hit, we're easily able to take care of him, and now we've just got his enemies left to deal with, which shouldn't be too hard. I do have a big fist above my head that is about to clap me in a second, and even though the camera flies away, I survive, only taking 57 force damage. We take care of the last guard, and collect the last netherstone we need to progress to the end of the game. With all 3 netherstones collected, we make our way over to the nether brain. Of course, we don't pass the 99 check as per normal, and we get saved by the Emperor. And this time, for the first time in this channel's history, I'm going to be completing this part completely solo, no companions, nothing. To do this, we take the netherstones and turn into a Lithid. Yes, no more pretty boy Astarion. As an Illithid, we are now able to use the netherstones, which means we no longer need the Emperor on our side. So we attack the Emperor and get ready to enter completely solo. You might be surprised to hear that this was actually one of the easiest endings of a run I've had in a while. I skip past the courtyard using an invisibility potion as per usual. I fly up to the top of the balcony, skipping the whole fighting part on the way up. This despawns all the enemies and gets me ready to enter the brain fight. Of course, I buff up with a bunch of Pirellius stakes. This gives us a bunch of extra damage for a few turns, however it makes us vulnerable to all sorts of damage, meaning we pretty much have to be 100% safe in order to survive, which I intend to do. To start this fight, I pick up the scroll that I got from Sorcerer's Sundries. This is that enhanced magic missile I was talking about. I do a bunch of stacks targeting the dragon. Then I do one targeting either the Emperor or the Dream Guardian. Doesn't really matter which one I target. The Emperor is the higher priority though, so I target him to try and do as much damage as possible. Unfortunately, I don't kill the dragon because I had not enough stacks of fear stakes, but that's okay. Because I am a rogue, I dodge the fire breath, no problem. I then just use a scroll of chain lightning, and this instantly kills the dragon and the Emperor, and also the Dream Guardian. Meaning it's just the Illithids left, and I've only used one of my actions. I do have to be careful though, because I am vulnerable to force damage and they can just spam magic missiles and pretty much guarantee kill me. So I fly my way over and I either have to kill 2 of the Illithids or use a scroll of invulnerabilities, which of course I did. The double reaction showing off strong here again, as I use Psionic Backlash to not only kill 1 Illithid but kill 2, because I have 2 reactions from the Duelist Prerogative. I didn't really consider this into my factoring in when I did this fight, but hey, that's kind of cool to know. And then on my next turn, of course I take care of the last 2 Illithids pretty easily. Of course with a scroll of Chain Lightning, who would have thought. They tried to counterspell it, but I went through. From here I can now get ready to enter the brain. I cast the spell right on the Crown of Carcass because I can't get targeted by it while I'm doing the channel thingy. On our next turn we enter into the brain and do the final fight. And I wasn't worried at all here because I knew I had a lot of damage and I had a backup plan if I didn't think it was going to work. Our first turn resulted in a lot of damage and a natural critical, meaning I didn't need to use my Luck of the Far Realms. I did about 100 damage here, so that is a good start. I fly away on my next turn to make sure the orbs spawn up here and use some spell scrolls to do fire damage instead. This will mean I'll have piercing damage available on my next turn. I then use my secret weapon, Aberration Slaying Arrows. This does a stupid amount of damage, and on our final turn we use another Fireball scroll to finish the fight. With that done, Rogue Solo Honor Mode is finally done. This was actually a blast to play and I really enjoy the Swashbuckler class. For all the fans out there, I just want to say thank you for being patient on this one. I got a bit sick midway through recording this, so it got delayed for a few weeks. But we're back now and I'm already working on my next video, so hopefully you won't have to wait a month for it. If you enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.